Hello, everybody. Hopefully, you can all hear us. I'm Joel Robinstein,
I'm Max Woolgar.
and we are here today to take you through the data talent survey from 2021. So, just a few bits and bobs to start while we wait for people to come on. We've just had some news as well, which is really exciting. We've obviously had a massive year due to COVID, but Channel 9's just put something out saying that we are reducing all the restrictions.
Dancing's back.
Dancing's back, which is massive.
Yeah, definitely.
No masks on trains, as many people as you want in your house. So I don't know if that's for the whole country, but it's definitely for Sydney. So well done to everyone in Sydney who managed to get us to this point.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It's been quite a journey, mate. Yeah. So just a few bits and bobs for you to know about what we're doing at Precision over the next year and some things that are coming up. Really important one for us is we're partnering with the Black Dog Institute. So Precision's had a huge focus on mental health over the last year.
Yep.
And the natural progression for us was to partner with Black Dog to work on a few events with them, raise as much money as we can, and obviously bring as much awareness to mental health issues. So we're going to be doing a 110k walk in August, which is a 24-hour walk. So
did the 80k one last year.
Yeah.
I can tell you now that was hard enough. So this will be a real.
Yeah, well, we've got Simon, our MD, who sees the Oxfam walk of 100k and goes, well, we better do a bit more.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
If you like walking and want to get involved, we managed to raise, I think, nearly $30,000 last year. Yeah. So obviously looking to top that this year. So a lot of our events that you might be attending this year as well will start charging small amounts. That money will be going towards Black Dog. We've got a podcast starting actually next week. Our first episode is being filmed. So the first one should be coming out on the week after. So I think it's the 6th of April. And that's called Keeping Up with Data. Keep an eye out for that. We'll be sharing it on all our social channels and sending it out. Our first guest is Keegan O'Shea, who works at Afterpay. He's the head of data science there, I believe. So that should be something good. And it's going to be a nice, relaxed, easy to listen podcast. So watch out for that coming out. We've got a couple of great events coming up. We've got a retail event. So we're partnering with the Retail Doctor Group. And we've got literally a guy who goes by the Retail Doctor. It's Brian Walker.
Yeah, real guru in that space. I think he's one of LinkedIn's top 100 speakers or influencers as well. So really nice stuff.
So if you work in retail, that'll be something really relevant for you. Again, we'll send out some information afterwards. And then in May, we haven't got the information for this yet, but we're going to be doing an event around how to build a center of excellence for your data team. So lots coming up. And our Q3 market report has just been finished. I've just finished writing that, so we'll be sending that out. The big message for this course is quite simply, and we'll get into this in the talent survey in a moment, is that I've never seen the market as busy as this. I've been doing this for 11 years in Sydney now and Australia. Never seen it this busy. We saw a 50% increase in jobs just this quarter. It's especially busy for mid to senior level candidates, but the most important thing that I want to get across as a message is if you are a hiring manager right now, the market's completely flipped on its head, especially for really skilled candidates, and you haven't got that luxury of time. You haven't got the luxury of waiting for someone who's a 100% match for your role. You really need to be snagging people who are 80, 90% matches because they're getting taken off the market super quickly. We've got clients who used to take 4 to 6 weeks to bring someone on board. They're doing it within a week now. So if you're not moving that quickly, really sure of your employee value proposition, you're not going to get the best people. But that's just some general information while we're waiting for people to jump on. So we'll get into the talent survey now. And this is what we'll be hopefully taking you through today. If my clicker works. No clicker today. Okay, never mind. All right, maybe the batteries are gone. No, that's not what we want down here. There we go. All right, so this is the content for today. Just go through general profile of the people who responded, what the job functions are, go through some diversity statistics, what people's drivers are, technologies in the market at the moment. And there's a lot of information around COVID and flexibility at the end as well. There is an opportunity for you to ask questions in your bar along the left of your screen. There's a question box. Please chuck in any questions you've got in there. We'll try and leave about 15 minutes at the end where you can ask us some questions, and we'll get through as many of them as possible. In terms of the actual context for this, we do this every year. It's extremely important for us as a recruitment company, but extremely important for you guys as well, in terms of if you're looking for a role, if you're looking to hire someone into your team, or just generally know where you're standing in the market. We had more respondents this year than we've ever had, so we're pretty confident to around a 3% statistical significance in our data, and we've also added in our knowledge as recruiters as well. So getting into it, the first slide, over to you, Max, just around the types of people that we have respond.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's too many surprising things here. Obviously, permanent contracts, about 70 to 30%. I think last year was a little bit of an increase in contract opportunities that we were getting on. And if you have a look at the number of years of experience with data, I think obviously a lot of the people that we're speaking to are going to be people that typically we're placing, and an interesting slide after that. But typically, the people that we are going to be working with, that businesses are going to come out to recruitment agencies finding in terms of niche roles, are going to be that sort of 5 to 10 year experience. And if you look at that, that's sort of mostly where our respondents are coming from.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really play too much within the junior end of the market, so obviously we have fewer respondents from that end, but it's pretty typical of what we see in the market as well. Sorry about having to lean forward every time, but there we go. So the interesting shift that we saw last year was more entry-level and junior people entering the market on contract roles.
Yes.
Especially fixed-term roles, we saw a big increase in last year. I think there was the main reason for that was just around budgets from clients, but also it's an easier way to get into the market often if you're starting off. Typically, what we'd usually think is that people with more experience would be contractors, which you still see as well. There are more contractors with more experience, but that was a bit of a shift. And then the question on the right was quite fun. Last year we asked, were you born in Australia? Everyone said, can you broaden that out and find out where people are from? We've then obviously got the issue now of people writing overseas, which doesn't really help too much, but there was some funny ones in there. Scottish people don't think they're from the UK, they think they're from Scotland.
No, exactly. And quite a few Scottish people out here as well that don't want to be associated with the UK.
It's quite funny. And Melbourne, people from Melbourne don't think they're from Australia, they seem to think they're from Melbourne. So just interesting to see how different people think of themselves in terms of where they're from. But no surprises that there's a really broad mix. Data is a global industry. Obviously the Philippines, India, Pakistan, Brazil, countries that we'd expect lots of people to be coming from. So yeah, it's quite an interesting look at how people think of themselves. But we've seen some changes this year in terms of job functions.
Yeah, I think that the first thing, which is quite obvious, is obviously the analytics and insights area still being the largest portion of the pie, and obviously I think that's the foundation of all data that's been built on. But one area that's obviously gone up quite considerably is the delivery and project management side of things.
Yeah, 100%, and we've seen a big shift. So we've got a colleague of ours, Craig, who runs our project management desk, and typically he wasn't hiring data project managers, shall we say, but every big project he's hearing about now, not everybody being facetious, but they're all data projects. Money's being pumped into data, so we're now seeing a lot more less technical people in this market, which is really great because now we can get people like business analysts, project managers, change managers coming across, specializing in data.
And obviously, no surprise that data engineering continue to grow, year on year. I think obviously everything with regards to the cloud and that shift that's been happening, it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger.
100%. I'd say that a good 70% of the roles that James and I are recruiting in BI at the minute have been data engineering roles, and that's obviously with the move to the cloud. That's just what people are doing. So that's who responded to our survey, but now we go into some word clouds which are a little bit messy, but these are all about the key decision makers, why people want to move jobs. So we hear a lot about salary not being important. I think that's more so when companies are putting together their employee value propositions, but we see, as always, salary pops up as the key thing.
Well, I think people have a way of living and a lifestyle they need to keep up. So obviously there are other aspects on there which are quite key to people looking, but salary at the end of the day, it's always going to be a big talking point. Given the year that we've had, the difficulties, there's a lot more in terms of flexibility, company culture. When I'm speaking with potential candidates to send across to clients, they're extremely interested in how businesses, what their plan was when sort of COVID hit, how employees at the moment were being treated, and there's just so much more around that at the moment. I think businesses are reacting, certainly in Australia, to that as well.
Yeah, and we saw brand and reputation increase in importance compared to last year as well, and that is again just based on how people dealt with COVID. Basically, we've got some slides on COVID later on, but I think the long and short of it here is, if you are thinking about what are the most important things for people when they're looking for a job, if you're a manager looking to bring someone into your business, salary always important. Culture, always important, with the flexibility and what you're doing around that, and then the types of technology and the types of work you're doing. They're like the three key things that you want to be focused on.
I think one thing to take away from it as well, and certainly working with maybe more sort of tech startup businesses or companies that have gone through a very digital process, they always have a lot of beer taps, table tennis tables, and that just doesn't seem to crop up in drivers for making that decision. So I think that they're nice to haves, but people aren't going to make make a move
just based on that. The benefit side of things is really important. It might tip over the edge.
Yeah,
but when we talk about benefits, health insurance, it's car allowance, it's especially with people working from home now, and there's a slide later again, which is quite surprising how much people are working from home. That those table tennis tables have become a lot less important, haven't they? All right, so on to our next slide, which covers what do people want to learn. So the big one for me, and we've got two thoughts on this, we've discussed this a lot, is that Tableau's not shown up at all. And the last few years we've done it, it's been one of the biggest. So the theory is either everybody knows Tableau now because it's been the one everyone wanted to learn, or Power BI has just completely smashed it out of the market.
And I find that odd because probably about 80% of the roles that I've got at the moment or have had, certainly this side of this in 2021, Tableau has been what they're looking for. People, as with a lot of the visualization tools now, businesses will accept one or the other, but the one that they're using has been Tableau, not Power BI.
Which is on my side of things, for almost every role has been Power BI. So it seems that the more technical roles, so I recruit within business intelligence, data engineering, Max is insights analytics. So it seems like the more technical roles they've all moved towards, and you can see it here with Azure being on there, that Microsoft environment, Azure, Power BI, and then everything comes within Azure. You've got Databricks, Data Factory, whatever it may be. So I guess there's different opinions, but it still doesn't solve the mystery of where Tableau disappeared to in terms of people wanting to learn it. But cloud, as expected, it's up there. AWS and Azure, definitely the two main skills that people are wanting to learn. But GCP as well, it's a bit smaller. But
Python as well, very clear winner in terms of programming languages. R's not really.
Yeah, we haven't heard much about R, have we? So, and Snowflake, congratulations to an awesome, I think, Sydney business, I believe. Snowflake's popped up for the first time, and in quite a large way, and we've seen more and more clients use it. And that's great to see these local tools popping up. Right, onto our next slide, which covers industry sectors, but no surprises here for us, especially with the year we've had.
I think banking and finance always going to be a very safe industry. They pay well as well, so there's that. Retail, certainly, in terms of what I've been working on, has been booming over the last year. There's a lot of really exciting projects. As we mentioned, we've got this retail event coming up, which is focusing heavily on the future of retail, digitalization, and there's just a lot of cool stuff going on there. And then, giving back to social causes and healthcare is always going to be big. So I don't think too many government.
It's nice and stable. I think last year probably people saw it's quite stable. But going back to retail, I think that's an industry for me, and especially speaking to Brian, this event that we've got coming up, there's just such obvious advancements that can be made right now within tech and data. You look at the smart stores that you can have, the supermarkets, different ways of scanning items, different ways of getting people around a supermarket, and that's just thinking of supermarkets, not thinking of online shopping work. So there's a lot of opportunity within that industry for people, so definitely a good one to be focused on. And as you said, healthcare last year was just a no-brainer, really. Right, getting into some of the more meaty stuff now. So how did people secure their roles over the last year or so? So no surprises, we've got direct applications and recruiters as the two main ones. Always the way, but we have had some thoughts around this. Referrals significantly dropped. I mean, it's just above 10%, but last year it was just over 20%. So, we had a few ideas around why.
There's, and it's always just, I can't pin anything particular on it, but last year there was a lot of people that weren't necessarily looking to make that move. They didn't want to jump into a new notice period, and maybe people in the business were aware that, everyone in their team, felt the same way. And just didn't bother to be sending out any referrals or anything.
All your friends weren't looking because they wanted to stay in a secure job. So referrals definitely dropped down. On the right hand side, no differences here really. Contracts. Candidates are always going to be more likely to find a job through a recruiter just for payrolling reasons. It's always been the way. But that referral side of things should hopefully change this year. Although when I'm asking people at the minute, have you any friends that you want to refer? Everyone seems to say that they're in a role, not many people looking at the moment, but a lot of jobs, not as many candidates looking. This is the one that you want to be looking at if you're a hiring manager. It's how often are your people approached about opportunities, but not just that, how often are they actually keeping an eye on the job market, and it's quite scary reading in some senses, because you've got nearly 60-65% that are looking at the job market every month.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just kind of look rather than necessarily moving.
You've got LinkedIn now, haven't you? It's pretty much most people are going to be on. You're bombarded with what's going on in the market as it is.
100%.
I think the yearly one's quite a shock.
Quite surprising, yeah. Maybe people just love their job. I mean, I don't look. I've been here 11 years, so maybe it's people like me. But on the left there as well, how often are people being approached? So you've got 45% monthly, nearly 30% are being approached weekly. So if you're a hiring manager, you need to be super focused around your retention strategies. Not just attraction, but retention is more important, because the cost associated with losing someone and then having to bring someone in. Obviously, it's counterintuitive for recruiters to be telling them this, though.
Well, now it is, but as we've mentioned already, the market's so candidate focused at the moment. There aren't as many good candidates out there. There's more jobs. If you're having to battle losing candidates, as well as then trying to get more in, you're really going to struggle having the sort of best talent in your team.
So let's just say the best person in your team is being approached weekly. So every week, 52 times a year, they're getting something approached, maybe even more. At some point, the right thing's going to drop in their inbox and go, you know what, I'll just look at it. So those retention strategies around investing them in terms of teaching them maybe some of those tools that you thought before, training, flexibility is huge. And let's be honest, better to give someone $10,000–15,000 on a pay rise than have to spend whatever it is to get someone in the door, right?
Exactly.
So definitely something that people should be focused on. If you've got any questions on retention strategies, just reach out. These are now the slides that people want to know. We're going to get into which areas as well are the highest earners, but we saw a huge increase in salaries. That 125, the blue bar on the left, people are reaching that point much quicker in their career now. And we've seen more people earn over $200,000, which is great to see. And we've seen a big drop in people earning under $100,000. So as a kind of whole, we've seen salaries have gone up at least 10–15% within the industry.
A couple of things we were discussing as well, I think previously, was the years of experience sort of conundrum. Does that directly correlate to your take-home earnings? And obviously it does in this graph. But where do you sort of draw the line on once somebody's got a good grasp of something? I think you probably hit that ceiling of any more years doesn't necessarily mean they should be earning more money.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, that graph on the right, which, sorry for the mess of the colours, but it quite clearly shows a correlation between years and how much you're earning. Getting into that orange sections are much quicker. Now, we've got different opinions in some senses here. I think there's one side of the coin where you can say it doesn't matter if you've got 3 years experience or 30 years experience, especially in a tech role. If you're really just a whiz at something, really good technically, then maybe you should be earning as much as someone with 30 years experience. But then the flip side.
Well, there's factors involved in it as well. And when you're going to your CFO or whoever is funding the project, the program, and you're asking for a large salary to bring somebody on board, if you bring somebody on board and they don't have that many years experience and it doesn't go right, your head's probably going to be on the chopping block.
Exactly. So it's a bold decision to hire that junior person. But not only that, you can't put a value on time, because even though that person with 30 years experience might not be better than the one with 3 years experience, I can guarantee you they've seen a lot more, seen a lot more failures, seen a lot more successes. So there is definitely still stock.
No, certainly. They've been in a lot more situations.
100%. So an interesting conundrum for people when they're hiring, but where should you be if you want to earn the most money? Now, contract and permanence kind of leveled out a little bit here. You can see on the left-hand side that it's quite surprising maybe that there are people earning less in contracts, but we saw this because junior people entering the market in contract roles.
So that was the biggest shock there. And obviously, I think it's pretty typical to see that the top band is going to be mostly permanent. It's going to be people that are doing very sort of strategic consulting work on contracts, but you don't want to hire somebody extremely senior and then lose that knowledge in 6 months to 12 months.
Exactly. So if you want to earn the most money, get into a permanent managerial role. We'll see that in a moment as to why. On the right hand side, do you feel fairly remunerated? Now, it's no surprise that those at the lower end of the scale do not feel fairly remunerated. And that's because you're hearing things like data science is the best paid job in the market. It's the hottest market in the world right now. So if you're earning under 80,000 or under 100,000, you're probably seeing friends earning more. You're seeing people on LinkedIn telling you should be earning more. So that's no surprise. I'd be interested to see who those are earning over 250, thinking that they're maybe not earning enough. It's a small segment, but you know, that actually might be those people who are at that level where they're maybe a chief data officer, but they've still not got that seat at the executive table, where we all agree now that the chief data officer should be at that C level, but it doesn't always necessarily go that way. So it could just be that. Or maybe they think they're earning too much. There's also that as well. You never know, but I doubt it. Okay. So this is my favorite slide every year, just because it half makes us look good, but I think there's a few reasons for it. If you want to feel fairly remunerated in your role, the best way to do that is to find your role through a recruiter. I think there's probably two things there. It's either your recruiter's exceptional and has told you that you're on what you should be and you believe them, or on the flip side, your recruiter's exceptional at negotiating and they actually have got you what you wanted.
And I think, you know, the obviously I'm slightly biased here, but the positive side about using a recruiter is that, you know, hopefully we are speaking to people in the market day in, day out. We're going to have a good understanding of what is fair, what people are on, and, you know, we would hopefully educate the consultant throughout that process. Whereas if you're just somebody that's going completely direct, you may not have done that, you know, your due diligence in researching how much other people are on. And you find a lot, I think pretty much 90% of roles now do not advertise a salary on there.
Frustrating, isn't it?
So you don't know what you're going to get by the end.
So when I was looking for purchasing a house over the last couple of years, if the price isn't on there, your next step is literally you have to spend the time to then get in touch with the real estate agent and say, how much is this? So with Precision, we do, I do, and the rule is that we always try and put the salary on the job, and it maybe means that you don't get as many applicants, but at least people know what they're getting into.
Exactly.
The biggest thing for me that we need to talk about here, we do speak about this most years, is that if you're not feeling fairly remunerated, it's often through a direct application. And the reason for that is, and we have these conversations with candidates and our clients, on the one side, the candidate's thinking, well, I'm at third interview, but I don't know what the salary for this role is. But you know what? By the time I get an offer, they're going to love me so much, they'll give me whatever I want. Never works like that. And on the flip side, you've got your clients saying, well, by the time they get to third interview, they're going to want us so much that we'll be able to get for everyone. You've got two parties miles apart. If you take away one thing from today's webinar, it is speak about salary early. Don't be scared to speak about it. It's not a conversation that you should be having at the end, because then it's just a big surprise for everyone. Everyone's just wasted their time. So be upfront with it. And, you know, you may need to negotiate a little bit as you go, but don't leave it all to the end. There's too much emotion at the hiring decision if you negotiate at the end.
Definitely. You need to manage everyone's expectations, and look, especially in a candidate short market at the moment. If you're getting all the way to the end, then you're going to have to do another sort of week's negotiation.
Not
the candidate's gone by then.
And if you're a hiring manager right now, if there's an expectation of what they want and you've known about it all the way through the process, don't just throw something in at the end thinking we can get them for 10, 15K less, because someone down the street, I guarantee you now, is not doing that and they're getting that candidate. So it's that kind of market. Okay, so where should you work? If you want to be paid the most, nose to prize, be a manager. That's the good start. It's always going to be the way to earning the very, very most in the market. But I think a big surprise, well, not a big surprise, but data governance. I tell you what, if you want to buy a house and get a mortgage,
it's very stable, isn't it?
Tell your bank this is what I'll be earning. I'll be earning between $150,000 and $200,000 a year. But digital, you do a lot in. So salary's going up in that, no surprise. And then the data strategist, and I think that's simply because in order to be a data strategist, you have to have
the experience, don't you? You have to have been around the block.
Any surprises for you?
Not particularly. You know, visualization, like we said, it's pretty much the backbone of it. You're going to have most of, you know, the people working in that are probably going to be around, you know, 5 years experience, 5 years experience, and that fits in line with that.
Exactly.
Salary there. I think the data science one is probably the biggest shock for me. And you know, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of people have these grandiose dreams of scientists being paid a lot of money. Now, you know, is that a reflection of people being put into what people are terming as data science jobs when they're actually just, you know, analysts or doing analytics and insights?
100%.
Or are they being paid, you know, less than everyone thinks they are?
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, if you work in America right now, we hear all the stories in Silicon Valley of data science coming out of university and earning $200,000. I don't know specifically because Emily works our data science market here, as I'm sure a lot of you will know, but I think you're right, Max, in the sense that a lot of people call themselves data scientists who weren't. And I also think that maybe the value isn't necessarily the same as what you get as a data scientist in Silicon Valley. You know, just like it's a different job out here. And it's what really was when I started recruiting 10, 11 years ago, is statistics and modeling really is just kind of merged into data science. So, but yeah, that's what you want to be doing.
One final interesting point there, looking is that visualization, the top end is actually higher than, there's more people earning the top end than project management, which was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that necessarily because they are in management but still see themselves as coming from
maybe
these
backgrounds? Maybe hands-on managing. Yeah. Okay, right. This is going to be some fun around diversity, which is always good when you've got two white English gentlemen talking to you about diversity, but we'll give it our best shot. Some really good news. So we had 18% representation from women last year, up to 24% this year. So that's a big increase. It's a significant enough increase for us to think that there are perhaps a few more women in the industry at the minute, but they're in specific roles, and we'll talk about that in a moment. On the right-hand side, we used to see that men were much more likely to be in a contract role. This year it was almost exactly the same. Not really sure why that was.
No, I don't really have any reason behind that. Is it just like we said, because there is, the percentage of women has gone up and that's just naturally evened out? I don't know.
Possibly, yeah, 100%.
I'd say.
So the big issue we've got though is the pay gap, and it's grown significantly, unfortunately. So I think a big thing to note here when we're talking about diversity is that we understand that everyone's individual situations are different. I had a conversation with a couple of people after last year's event saying, well, it's just how my family dynamic is my wife looked after our kids and was out of the industry for a couple of years, and is happy to now come back part-time. What I've seen, and this is more personal anecdotes, a lot of my friends, colleagues, people that I know, paternity leave now is a much bigger thing. We're talking 4 to 6 months. So we're seeing a bit more of a balance in the home situation, but we're not seeing a balance in the salaries. I mean, it's quite clear there. It takes 70% of women are earning under 125,000.
It's not good, is it? If you look at the time, percentage and the time sort of to get to that blue sector, males already gone through that.
100%. So obviously, on an individual level, there may be reasons for that. But all we can give is some statistics around the broader survey that we've done, and it doesn't look particularly healthy in terms of the pay gap.
No, definitely. I think one of the positive things to take away from it is that there is a high percentage of females in that top tier bracket over 250,000, which is brilliant. Having more women in those senior leadership positions, and I know from recruiting myself that there is a big drive in that area, but maybe we need to have a bigger drive as well in those entry levels. Sort of look at the grassroots back again.
100%, because you're right. I mean, we've seen many of our clients have had a drive towards getting more women into leadership team positions, because that creates diversity of thought. And there isn't that middle section there, or the purple section. So maybe women are being kind of pushed towards those leadership team positions a bit quicker, but there's something that needs fixing there. Unfortunately, we don't have the answers. But luckily on the right, last year, women felt very unfairly remunerated, but this year they feel in line with men, which is actually quite surprising because women seem to be less. So not sure what happened there. Some other general findings, this is just some notes that we made. Women are most likely to work in data science and analytics and insights, but very much not within data engineering and digital. So data engineering especially is the market I work mostly within, and it's 91% men. So a representative shortlist, if you're looking to recruit a data engineer, it's actually 1 woman and 9 men, which is quite difficult if you want to increase the diversity. But good news, obviously, more women in management positions. So that's up 9%. And on the right hand side, we haven't got a graph for this, but there's a huge increase in those in management roles from overseas, which is up by 18%. Last year, we saw far too many leaders were of an Australian background. Again, no diversity of thought. That's changing. So there are some positives coming out of this. We've had, first time we've had transgender respondents, and also a random one on the side is that contractors are more likely to work from home 5 days a week. And that leads us nicely into our next slide, which goes into COVID. Great news about how people responded, though.
No, definitely, and I think I can only speak from my own experience here with Precision, and it was very good in terms of transparency and the way it was tackled. And I think just Australia in general, I've still got a lot of friends that work in recruitment and other industries back in the UK, and it just the difference in how it has been handled compared to out here has been, astronomical.
Would you say, because obviously coming from the UK, Max, if that was a survey in the UK, would that graph be flipped, do you think?
Completely.
It's
Completely. I don't think there'd really be anyone on, definitely.
No, I agree, speaking to my family back home as well. On the right side, I mean, most people would tick, they're generally happy with the response. It seems those with less experience weren't, and that's perhaps they were more likely to be redundant, but then...
And then the people that were probably making the COVID plan and the decisions were, very happy.
Yeah, exactly. But there wasn't much difference between them. So, and then here's the remote working. So as we said, contractors are more likely to work from home. So you've got 62% of people working from home 5 days a week. Now, obviously, we work within a technical industry, but even that still surprised me.
It is big, but I think it's still quite interesting how, and I still have it a lot with businesses, that they do pretty much have fully remote.
Yeah.
Or they offer extreme flexibility, but they still sort of want somebody in the same state.
Yeah.
So it's like you're working 5 days a week from home, but you have to be in the same state. It's sort of a bit counterintuitive there.
Yeah, it is a bit counterintuitive.
I'm not sure whether that will flip,
I think, well, obviously with these new restrictions being lifted in Sydney, I think we're going to see that decrease a little bit. Yeah. But the main point here is it seems that people have been treated like adults more now in Australia, which is good. Manage your own work, get it done, and we don't really mind where you're doing it. Those not working from home at all may be the unfortunate ones. I had a friend actually who works in the office every single day throughout COVID. None of their office worked from home. He was in the office in a suit every day. The only person in town, I think, for a few of the weeks.
I can remember coming in a couple of times and it was just, you couldn't get a coffee, you couldn't get any lunch. It was pretty miserable.
So at least we're back to normal nearly. The year ahead. So good news, at least 70% of companies are going to be hiring. I don't think there's any surprise there. I'd say that might even be increasing. And then on the right hand side, what people do to upskill. So this is to help people looking to retain their staff. This is what you could be doing.
Definitely. And I think, and you can just see going on LinkedIn and speaking to the market that, over that last year in terms of the commute, maybe not having that commute, people have had more time. There has been a lot more self-learning and upskilling. So it just does go to show that people are keen, they are interested in doing that.
Yeah.
And I think if businesses, were to offer the option of extra training and, in different areas of data and technologies, people would be very keen in doing that.
Although there's the 17% who aren't learning anything, which is fair enough. If you want some advice on what you should be doing to help you get a new role, a lot of people ask us, should I be doing a degree? Should I be doing certifications? What should I be doing? Try and put yourself into the shoes of someone who's a hiring manager. And the way we see it is going and doing a master's degree isn't going to get you a job. And it's probably not even going to get you that much far ahead of any other candidate. People want on-the-job experience. So the best way to upskill yourself and then get it on your CV in order to get a job is to ask your current company to let you do some projects in an area that you're interested in, as maybe a side project or even bringing it into your day job.
Definitely.
Then when you walk into that interview and they say, hey, when have you applied this? You can give them X, Y, Z.
And that it's such a key factor, isn't it?
Yeah,
I get that question asked so many times where people, have you done that in a business environment? Or is it just...
Don't not do a degree because of what we said, but don't expect 2 years hard work that you put in to be the big difference.
You can go back. I know it slightly doesn't really connect up. If you go back in terms of salary and the jobs, it's years of experience in that role.
Yeah.
If you go and do 5 years of different qualifications and you've got no years experience in the role, it's going to have an effect. But
if you're going to do a PhD or something like that to get yourself a new job, do it something really niche.
Yeah.
Like data ethics or I don't know, this behavioural science or something like that, where you can walk into something, hey, look, there's not many people in Australia who do this, it's just me. All right, we're coming to the last bit here. So if you want to start popping your questions in to the sidebar there, but this is our conclusion. We do this every year. What does the typical data professional look like in Australia? Obviously, I'm guessing not many of you will actually be this person, but you're most likely to be in analytics and insights, be male and be born overseas. 5 to 10 years experience, earning $150,000 to $200,000. Be in a permanent individual contributor role. Be looking at the job market weekly. Find your role through a recruiter. You want to learn cloud technologies, and you're very driven by salary and culture. Do you know what? If anyone listening right now is all of those, I'd be interested to get a picture of you, then pop you out on LinkedIn as this is the typical person in data. Anyway, so that's the conclusion. That's us. So we're going to pop out the questions. I had some really good ones last year. This is a scary moment. We'll actually see if anyone's put a question in. Oh, yeah, here we go. We've got one at least. So, okay, great. We've got loads of those questions. So the very quick one from David. Yeah, definitely will be providing a copy of these slides. I think a few people have asked that. So yeah, watch out for that. We'll send it out afterwards. Okay, let's start from the top. Sorry about not being that was intentional. The two people in front of you are from England, but no, the rest of our team actually aren't. Aussie, Laura Kiwi, Emmy's Kiwi. In fact, we are the minority. Okay, let's have a look what else we've got. Is it surprising to see data strategy and data governance job functions are not famous yet, despite organisations started considering and taking it seriously? Yes, it's my short answer. Well, especially data strategy.
Yeah, and you can see from the remuneration.
It's hardware, isn't it? Remuneration.
Yeah, remuneration.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm surprised by data strategy not being a big thing, but I honestly believe that's because a lot of data strategy is delivered by a head of data, a chief data officer. Yeah. So it's rolled up in another role.
I think it's quite difficult to define it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But data governance, though, I mean, go into the finance industry if you're looking to see where data governance is. They're just crawling and they're just everywhere, and people are just hiring like crazy. I mean, go on Macquarie's career site, and if you want a job in data governance, they're everywhere at the minute, and that's because of everything that happened with the Royal Commission. Okay, any specific reasons you guys came across for above? Data and insight can't be driven successfully without data governance, data strategy. It's a good question. Data and insight cannot be driven successfully without data governance. I just think a lot of mid-tier companies aren't aware that how important data governance is. They just think, oh, we've got all this data over here, let's just start making use of it. But the biggest problem most companies have, especially when they're doing their cloud upgrades, is that data's in 8 different places in the business. Dave over there calls this piece of data a tree. Angela over there calls that piece of data a bush, but they don't mind because it doesn't really touch them. So
I think it's easier to implement it, and there's a bigger need for it in heavily regulated industries. And I think it's a bit more, can be, I'm not saying it's always, but it can be a bit of an afterthought when you're sort of growing a data capability out.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely an afterthought,
but obviously will come back to bite you.
And super sexy. I mean, sorry if you work within data governance, I don't mean to say that about your role, but a lot of people see it as, regulations. Oh, don't tell me I can't do that. Yeah. But in reality, it's probably one of the most important things you can do, because when we look at the data breaches, the data issues that people are having, I mean, it should be top of
money costs business when that does go wrong.
Exactly. How do you see the analytics translator job market developing? People sitting in between business and tech side, this space is fairly low maturity in Australia. This is a big one for you, but my thoughts very quickly is everybody wants their cake and eat it. They want a technical person who can do that.
Yeah, and I think that that's that's the difficulty with that area, is that being client business focused now is as almost as much as a technical skill is viewed upon when hiring somebody. But you get a lot of technical people that only like doing the technical aspects, and you get a lot of business focused people that only like doing the business aspect. So it's becoming more and more key, but they're in short supply just because of the nature of the industry. But rightfully so. I think as this goes on, they're going to command more and more,
definitely,
of a salary. So if that is an area that you are good at, then keep cracking on.
Definitely. My view is this: companies spend so long trying to find the golden goose. I want technical, I want strategy, I want communication skills, and it's because there isn't the investment. So they think, right, I've only got enough for one person, I need it all. In the long run, that's not going to pay off.
Of course.
It's better. There's so many strong technical people in the market who find it hard to get a role because perhaps communication, stakeholder engagement isn't their strength. Is get those people in there doing what they're good at.
Yeah.
Then put someone in the middle that you invest in who is that translator, and then you've got the business. If you do that, your long-term investment is definitely going to pay off. But people spend so long thinking, no, I can't hire that person, they've got good enough communication skills, or that person's a great communicator, but they haven't got the tech skills. I agree with this person's question that I think that role is pivotal and should be seen as something that everyone should have.
No, of course.
But that's just my opinion. Maybe because we see how long some companies take to hire because they want everything in one. Do you have remuneration breakdown by roles, functions displayed? I think we went through that, so that's all good. Can you please share on what's a direct application? Is it being applied directly on the company website? Yeah, basically. Applying directly to the company on their website or applying on Seek.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Okay, if I was looking for repatriation back to Sydney, how long should I allow? 20+ years, currently in management with strong focus in cloud data environment. Okay, so that's someone who's already worked and lived here and has a visa. That's a lot easier.
I think it's quite difficult because I think Laura maybe recently replaced somebody and it was quite an easy process, but they had to do a funny flying trip just to get back into the country.
Yeah.
But then I'm speaking with a lot of people in UAE and some places like that are Australian citizens or permanent residents, and they just can't get back in.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I think that also comes down to the business that how keen are they in terms of investing in getting that person back. So it's a tricky question.
Yeah, I've had someone come over from New Zealand and they were going to be here 1st of March. I think they ended up getting here just this week.
Yeah.
But they were planning to get here for ages and it got shifted around. I think with the restrictions coming off, if you're overseas and you have a visa, I would say the best thing you can do if you can afford it is to just get here and get a job very quickly. Secondly, I'd say you probably need about 3 months lead time if you can't do that. Okay. If you are more likely to be fairly remunerated by going through a recruiter, it'd be interesting to see a cross-section of the gender pay gap of roles recruited via a recruiter versus other channels. That's a great question, Guppy, and we'll definitely dig into that afterwards. In fact, I will
make a note of it.
Make a note. So, are you more likely to do that for you guys? Okay. Will a portfolio project earn you a slot? So I think that's maybe to do with what we talked about at the end there, where a side project, will that kick you on and get you a job? I'd say it will definitely give you a better shot.
No, definitely. And a lot of the things that people are looking for now is people that go out there and are hungry to do things and show initiative. I get that a lot, especially in terms of analytics and insights. They don't want people, and it's slightly off tangent here, but they don't want people that just a stakeholder comes and says run this report, just feed it back to them. They want people that can look at business insights and be able to drive that business efficiency, showing initiative, and I think that will boil down to
definitely.
Like,
if you can walk into an interview and say, hey, look at this cool thing that I did, it's not going to harm you. Exactly. It's one of the biggest pieces of information I give people who are entering the market, because it's hard to differentiate yourself. Like if your friend's friend owns a cafe or runs a sports team, whatever it is, can you grab their data, even if it's a small, put something into a dashboard and walk into an interview with someone and say, hey, this is the initiative I've used and I've actually done something live for a business.
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing you should be doing. How are opportunities for international students and fresh grads? So quite simply, it's not an area that we work in too much.
I get a lot of questions about it at the moment, and just typically we don't have that appetite from businesses to come out to recruiters for graduates and entry level, because they typically either have their own people on campus at universities or have their own sort of streams that they pull them out of. So although we can give advice, it's just not an area we work
exactly. And we'd love to help more. And if you want to reach out, we're happy to give advice. And at the end of the day, to be in our network, because usually when you hit that 2 years experience, that's when we become much more useful to you. But it's difficult. I know it's difficult for people at the entry level at the minute, because we have a lot of people approaching us, and it's difficult because you don't hear back. You apply for a lot of roles, and there's maybe 200 other people applying. And it's really difficult, and we understand how difficult it is for people, where you're hearing that this is the market you should get into and you'll definitely get a job and it's amazing, go and do data. It doesn't mean it's easy to get into, but once you're in, I promise you, you'll be much better. Yeah, much more worthwhile. Okay, how do you compare cities in Australia and make a comparison between them? So we've done that before. We didn't do it as much within this survey, because we went for that open, where are you from, living question, and we had some in Australia, some in Melbourne. But quite simply, if you want to earn the most, Sydney, that's just through general recruiting knowledge, and then Melbourne, and now we're seeing Brisbane, Canberra, Adelaide, and Perth kind of move up a little bit as well.
And it's just because there's obviously simple factors there, isn't there? There's a large talent pool in those cities. Businesses are typically going to have their hubs and their head offices in Sydney, where most people are. saying that, you know, as we can see, the remote work's going up, so maybe it's going to be less sort of, you know, city and state focused and be a little bit more free flowing.
Yeah, well, we've just had down in Adelaide with a client of ours, and they were absolutely fine with people working remotely on it, which is great to see because they knew that they couldn't get the talent in Adelaide.
And I think that's been a big thing for us as well. I've had situations with companies where, you know, especially throughout COVID, where they were taking, you know, 4 or 5 weeks to look at people that they could get in that were in that state, and they just couldn't find the talent. And then I had another business that was able to hire people remotely, was very slick with it, and they got the person on board in less than a week, and the project kicked on. So
everyone can do the remote work, but it's definitely a good idea at the minute for those in the cities that aren't Sydney and Melbourne. Might be a very personal question, but I want to get a good sense if I'm earning enough. Yeah, that person, get in touch with us afterwards. We can help with that. Importance of soft skills, stakeholder engagement. I mean, we mentioned it a little bit before. Here's an analogy. Technical skills on your CV get you in the door. Soft skills get you through the entrance to that company.
Exactly.
It is that simple. Unfortunately, 99% of roles in Australian data, soft skills are super important.
And I guess when you look at it, you know, if you're going for a job and you're going for an interview, you'd like to think, or, you know, the most likely outcome is that the other people they're interviewing are going to have the same technical skills. So that's what's on the job spec. That's what they're after.
Yeah.
The differentiator is going to be, you know, those soft skills.
Yeah.
How you interact with them, how you'll be able to interact with the wider business, and so on.
Yeah, 100%. I still don't believe that it should be necessary in certain roles, and certain managers agree with me, but again, I think it comes back to, like you said, Max, you've been given the budget, you want to make it the right person, you want the full package, right?
Exactly.
Oh, here's the second part of the question before. Want to know what I should be earning. I'm a senior manager, how much is fair? It's difficult to say because senior manager in a small company with a team of 3 is different to senior manager in a large company, team of 30. Again, I think if you want to reach out afterwards to us, I think that's probably the best way. Hi, we're seeing the job exploded this year. Is this a once kind of activity due to post-COVID? Do you expect it to be steady next year? So I guess the one piece of clear data that we've got is over 70% of companies are going to be hiring this year. So that's a good sign for me. I think there's definitely a post-COVID boom because you've got the V-shaped recovery in the economy. However, we saw data, the market itself, apart from the likes of Qantas and companies like that, not many people got let go last year, as many as we thought. So then it's just kind of gone from where it was and then gone up to there now. So I think it's still going to keep being better than it was last year and the year before. I think it's going to keep growing. And as we said, the investment in projects is in data projects right now. So yeah, basically, I think it will stay solid. Often come across the term experience in cloud. What companies specifically need for that? I mean, it's just basically, have you worked within Azure and AWS in a GCP environment? It's that simple. And we often find with cloud, it's not necessarily good enough to education of it.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
No, like I said, people want on-the-job experience.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and it's that sort of whole chicken and egg thing.
Yeah, I know, right?
If you haven't got on-the-job experience,
how to
when do you get it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I understand it. It's tricky.
Look, I think experience in cloud is basically from, have you been through an implementation of cloud? Have you worked within that environment? It's just that simple, really. Right, not many left, a couple more to go. What's your advice for people wanting to break into the data market, especially for people with QA testing experience? That's a really good question, quite a specific one. And it's this is the problem, right? It's counterintuitive. Go course, in that situation, my advice is simply this: if you're working in a company, hopefully this person is, current company about it.
Yeah.
That's the best way to get experience and get moving into it. And whilst you're doing that, do a course with it.
Yeah. And like we said, if you can do so many extracurricular projects,
yeah,
with a friend,
extracurricular stuff,
get that experience and have that in your portfolio, then it's not going to harm.
The QA testing is close enough in the coding kind of domain where you should be able to transition a little bit, go to your manager, say, that's what I would advise. But obviously you need those skills in order to do the side project. I couldn't just suddenly go to Simon and be like, hey, I'm going to do some statistical analysis on our business. So you do still need to do the learning at home, do the courses basically. Okay, how do you deal with referees? How can you deal with referees with no idea on how you performed in your role, like machine learning and cloud architecture? That's a great question. So basically, how does a non-technical manager give a reference for my technical skills?
Yeah, there's no simple answer there. I think, you know, you'd have to have the referee giving you a reference in terms of, you know, your just day-to-day business, you know, process.
Yeah.
And then you would either be doing a technical test in the interview, or, you know, with the company. If there is no one there to specifically do it, you know, they can't, can they?
No, they can't. I mean, it's just that simple. Or go and try and get a job with a company where they're not bothered about references, because a lot of our clients now are turning off references because so many companies just give a bland, yes, they were good, because they don't want to get in trouble legally if they give a bad reference. So I'd say references aren't quite as important as they used to be, but they are for specific companies still. I know that doesn't help much, but
I think a lot of the time they're a bit of a box ticking exercise.
Yeah, 100%. Right, last question. Thanks for sticking with us. The 50 of you left. Data governance certifications are pricey. What's the current choice from the pool? I don't know.
I've got no idea on that.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Again, we're all about on-the-job experience, but we can chat about that and talk about it afterwards. So on that bombshell, that is it. We hope that you all enjoyed it. Thanks for all the kind words and the questions. We will be sending out the slides. We'll be sending out the pack. We'll be sending out some clips from this. And yeah, it's stay safe still.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.